Thank you all for coming in today, for this evening. We want to, of course, get to your story because you're a native New Yorker. Upper East Side, Upper West Side, where?
Yeah, up like about 20 blocks from here, so not very far.
Okay. And your backstory, your origin story is fascinating because when you were 14, you started a web hosting company. When you were 18, you started a concert promoting business out of your dorm room. And is it safe to say that you always knew you wanted to start your own business, you wanted to work for yourself?
I figured that out at about that time. I mean, I think that most founders, most entrepreneurs, regardless what they're doing, if they're in tech or in other places, have that moment when they are in their teens or maybe their 20s, and they start something that sort of ignites that flame, and they catch that bug, and it's really tough to walk away from that once you do it. So yes, I started a little company with a friend of mine when I was 18. We were looking to produce concerts. We produced the first hip hop concert at Lincoln Center, which is probably a story for another day. But for us, it was about making something that didn't exist. We saw something that we wanted, that we were like, hey, I want to go to this concert, and there are not enough that are great, and so we sort of figured out how to make it happen, and we executed it, and we built a company, we built a product.
Okay, you're downplaying it completely because you also convinced Jay-Z to show up at this concert, and he did. Can you tell us the story of how that happened?
Sure. So yes, we had put together this show. We had booked an artist, booked a venue. The only venue that would actually work with us was Lincoln Center. It was because it was not owned by or controlled by one of the large companies in New York. It was controlled by the city, so they had a more open mandate. And so what that meant was it was actually a tougher show to figure out because it was more expensive. We didn't have as much money to advertise, but we were able to realize that actually made it historic. We were the first. We were the first concert at Lincoln Center, and Convinced was at an event a couple of weeks before the show. Jay-Z was at that event in the corner over there, and I was introduced to him through a friend of mine, and was like, hey, you should perform at this show. I'm 18 years old. I look like I'm 12 at the point, and he sort of looks me up and down and says no, and just shakes his head. I said, okay. I walked away.
So that conversation was like 20 seconds.
It was literally about 20 seconds, but it made my day, it made my year basically. I got to meet Jay-Z. That was really cool, right? And then, but I didn't really take no for an answer. I made a couple of phone calls. I called the artist who knew his agent, who knew his publicist, et cetera, and basically hit him from 3 different angles, like the day after. And a couple days later, I got a phone call from his publicist, and he said he would perform. And he showed up. He performed. He was a surprise guest. We were already sold out, so it didn't matter. But he gave basically 3,000 people the best night of their lives. And that, for me, that feeling of making that moment happen for 3,000 people, that's what made me want to be an entrepreneur. That something from nothing never left me. I spent 10 years after that. I went to college and then spent 10 years after that, working in finance. But for me, that feeling that I had on that one night, stayed with me for life.
See, a lot of people that we talk to go to finance and they figure they'll do 2 years and then they'll go get their MBA and that's a transition out. They'll go be an operator. They'll make their connections. You didn't do just 2 years. You did 10 years.
Yeah, I thought
5 times as long as you expected.
I thought I was going to do 2. I ended up doing 10. I think that I thought I was going to go into finance. I thought I was going to learn about the world and then start a company. Again, I still had that feeling in my stomach of I want to go back to that moment of making something and sort of creating something that I can share with the world. I fell in love with markets. I ended up doing global macro. I started in investment banking and then moved to macro because I really wanted to understand the way the world works. And I think it gives you such a great lens for understanding how economics work, how markets work, and really thinking about problems in an interesting way. Right? I think markets force you to think about the world in a way where you are constantly trying to figure out sort of non-consensus bets, and that feeling of when you get it right is really compelling and really exciting.
Is there a linkage between markets, thinking about markets, and working on Wall Street and starting a startup and being at the head of a startup?
Yeah, there are actually. I think that it may seem like a atypical way to kind of come into startups, but actually there are a lot of us. There are a lot of folks that started in finance and then built tech companies in various industries, a lot in fintech, but also just across the board. And I think it's because it forces you to think really critically about the world and think about what doesn't exist, what is missing. And I think in markets you're always taught that. And the first thing you sort of learn when you're on the buy side is that you don't get paid to make a consensus bet, right?
The money's made already.
That's right. So at best you're going to break even or follow the crowd. And if you want to outperform, and if you're in hedge funds, your job is to outperform. You need to make a bet that the market is not discounting, right? So you're always looking for what is undiscounted, what is non-consensus, but probably going to be right. And I think that's very similar to starting a startup, where you're always looking for what is the company that nobody is building, what is where is the opportunity in the market that nobody else sees, but then you have to be right. You have to the crowd does have to follow you. If you see that opportunity, you're the only person that sees that, and 10 years later you're still the only person that sees that, you're wrong, right? And same in markets. If you see something and nobody follows you, the market, you're wrong, right? You lose money. So I think it's about being ahead of the crowd, but also understanding where the crowd sits.
Right, and that's different from the Silicon Valley mentality of being a builder first and being an operator first. This is a different, just kind of flipping it on its head.
Yeah, I think that part is very different, and I think that's for me that's the part that I had to learn as a founder. And I was fortunate to partner with my co-founder Alex. We started this company together. Who is a true builder, has been building companies his whole career. And so I've learned a lot from him in terms of how do you build a product, how do you build a company, and ultimately scale, take a vision to reality.
So you're talking about Row, which is the company that you're the co-founder and CEO of. It's a finance automation platform. What specific problem or problems were you looking to solve when you guys set up the company?
Yeah, so Row is it's a finance automation platform. We are building the simplest and most powerful financial operating system that's designed to help companies become more profitable. And at Row, we started out with a really simple problem, and it became bigger as we understood our customers' problem. That simple problem, day one, was just like opening a bank account online. It was that simple, which was businesses. Business banking felt fundamentally broken. I spoke to a lot of entrepreneurs really early on. We originally had an idea for a consumer product and for a consumer banking product, and I talked to a lot of people in that sort of space, our target customers. They all complained about the entrepreneurs. They all complained about their business banking. They all complained about their business financial stack and how broken that was, how it felt like took a second job to really manage sort of all of their finances. And for us, that was like an aha moment as we heard that time and time again. And I had the macro view that digital finance was going to change the way financial services were delivered, period. And then that was going to fundamentally shift the way that the largest financial institutions interact with their customers and ultimately deliver product. And so we started with that simple view of how do we make this product and experience just a little bit easier. And then over time, as we learned more and more about our customers, that sort of morphed into building an overall operating system that brings sort of all the full finance stack together for companies to help make them more profitable.
So originally you were looking at solving problems for consumers, but then you started to serve businesses instead. Did you not ever go back to consumers? Is that because there's so much regulatory scrutiny over consumers?
No, it wasn't because of regulatory scrutiny, but it was really because we felt like there was real demand pull. There was a real problem that we were solving. I think the consumer idea that we originally had, I thought it was interesting, but it was really tough for me to get other people excited about it. And so, but what the problem that everyone described was really on the business side. It was. And it was a much more interesting problem to solve, right? It was a true product problem. It was a product that we could be building forever and still not complete. So we believe that, again, part of the lesson from being a hedge fund portfolio manager and analyst is listen to the market, right? Follow the market. And so we felt like the market was telling us something, and we wanted to lean into that.
And of course, you're entering a space where, finance and banking heavily regulated, as we mentioned, legacy institutions, big banks. Were the big banks your competition in this respect?
In some ways, yeah. Like we believe that we could deliver a better product. We believe that our companies that we work with, really want a technology experience. They want the type of experience that they're used to across the board in all the other technology products that they interact with day to day. And really, we think about banking as really just one facet of what we do. Companies generally are coming to us for spend management, or they're coming to us for corporate cards or AP, or they're coming to us for banking. Those are sort of the entry points. But really, what they're getting is an operating system that helps them ultimately run better.
And at what point did you decide, or how did you prioritize what products to create to serve these various needs? Because once you open the door to, hey, I'm going to serve you business A and your banking needs, I mean, they have a whole long list of things that they need addressed.
Yeah, so we started with our customers. We went out, we started with a very basic product, and then we would pitch like really complicated customers, frankly, and they would all say no. Because we weren't ready for them. But we would take down really careful notes about why would they say no? What do they actually need? And what is the priority in terms of making the lives of that CFO, of that controller, of that accountant much easier? And that really helped us prioritize what to build. We stack ranked those priorities. We stack ranked those no's rather than going for the easy customer that we knew was going to say yes. And ultimately, that helped us build up into the customer that we serve today. And we have companies, up to 2,000 employees, and we'll probably go to larger soon, that are out there in the world, using our product to manage their company finance.
So I want to go back to your macro roots for a little bit, because you think about the economy, or you did when you were working at those hedge funds for 10 years. You think about the interest rate cycle. For most of your career, at least in finance, that meant interest rates were at or near zero, right? I mean, from 2009 until 2017, I think the highest it went was maybe 1.25%.
That's right. I picked a bad time to be a macro investor.
So what does that mean, or how does the interest rate cycle affect what you do now in terms of serving these corporate banking customers?
Yeah, it's something that we think about a lot. And I think that for us, we thought about it in terms of both how do we serve our customers, as well as how do we build a business that is resilient. And so for us, I think that a lot of fintech founders that are maybe not from a finance background take this part of the world for granted, assume that interest rates are sort of static or don't really move very much. And the past 10 years has kind of taught you that is the case, incorrectly, right? But interest rates are cyclical, and that's been, and the past 10 years was really the period where that was anomalous. And so for us, we think about making sure the business model can scale with interest rates, whether they go up or down. It changes our value proposition a little bit to customers during those periods, but for them, we're able to offer treasury management products, which are really important when interest rates are higher, and spend products that help them become more efficient when interest rates are lower.
I'm going to ask a dumb question, and this is something I posed to you when we were prepping for this. The products and the services that you create, does it basically allow these companies to not hire humans to do the work because you're replacing human jobs?
I mean, we definitely make it easier for finance teams to run their operations. I would say that the answer generally is no. We haven't really seen a finance team, or I haven't really talked to a finance team that said, oh, I have way more people than I need, and I'm overstaffed. Every single one we talk to is stretched too thin. They're lean. They don't have enough time to do what they've actually been hired to do, which is think about strategy, help the company make sure it meets its numbers each quarter, manage their projections and stuff like that. And so, generally speaking, we are freeing up finance teams to do that value-added work, as opposed to kind of what none of them really want to do in the first place, and I think what is kind of not a great use of their time, which is so they're mundane, redundant tasks. So we haven't seen anyone replace full team members with Row just yet, but I think that overall the goal is to continue to up-level how companies spend their time, and I think that's true for any technology product.
You talk about the interest rate cycle and how it fits in with the needs of your customers. How does the interest rate cycle fit in with the tech economy overall? How it grows, what it expands towards? What decisions founders need to make?
I think it has a very profound impact, right? It ultimately discounts the future value of cash flows. And so if you're building a company that's not profitable, a company that raises money to deliver on a future vision, a future value, that equation changes pretty dramatically with interest rates. I think it changes how long you should be thinking about getting to profitability, how far out you should be going in terms of investing. When interest rates were zero and real rates were negative, future value was theoretically anyway like worth more than present value, right? Which is a very odd sort of concept to think about. It means like a dollar 5 years from now is somehow worth more than $1 today. That's not in any finance textbook. It's not what you learn, in Econ 101. But what that meant for startups was like billions and billions of dollars flowed into startups, right? Because startups are all about future value,
Yep.
And stocks that did that too. You fast forward to today, we're in a more normal interest rate environment. I think we're back to more like what was 2018, 2019 in terms of startup environment. You can still build a great company and still fund that company today, but ultimately you want to make sure that you have clarity to that point, and that point can't be indefinitely out there.
But as in finance, there's a whole generation of startup founders who've never been in this kind of environment where money costs this much money.
Right.
And VCs are a lot more careful about what they invest in, and are definitely not pouring money into anything that has the buzzword of the day.
Except for AI.
Except for AI, which we'll definitely get to. Why don't we go there actually right now? How are you integrating AI tools into Rove?
So we partnered with OpenAI to build GPT into a number of our products. I think for us, it's more about making our products sort of smarter, making the user experience better. Overall, like we think that AI is, at least in the world that we're in, is going to just improve like every touch point that a customer has with our product. We don't think it's like everything's going to turn into a chat interface. I think that there's a school of thought that thinks that like, look, everything's just going to become like a ChatGPT interface. I don't think that's true, but I think that it's ultimately going to make the tools and products that we use much smarter and more intuitive, and ultimately like better.
Is it going to be rocky for a few years before it gets better? I mean, while the AI systems learn everything.
I think they're really good right now. I think it's more about just integrating that into products. I think you'll see that in every meaningful product that you touch, and within the next 12 months, we'll have AI built into it in some one way, shape, or form.
So looking ahead, what are finance teams still doing, your customers doing, that you think AI will replace, will make easier for them, will free them up from later on?
I mean, AI has been around for a long time, right? Generative AI is relatively new, and I think generative AI is unique in so much as it can, really absorb and share context in a very unique way. And so we think that, the context around financial transactions is really important, right? Why did this happen? What were the surrounding facts? And can someone interpret that? And can an AI based system interpret that? So we think it'll ultimately reduce the amount of sort of time that companies spend, closing their books and ultimately, managing their finance stack, and that's what we're trying to deliver at Grow.
Okay, I want to go back to something that I had in my notes because it's definitely something relevant to what a lot of people are thinking about, and that is scaling your business and scaling it sustainably. I think this is something that you've been focused on for a long time. But early on, when you're building out your business, how did you think about what would be the foundation of sustainable long-term growth? Like, how did you prioritize that and set benchmarks for yourself? Yeah,
it's a great question. I think that every business needs to sort of benchmark themselves, needs to think about like, where do we get to this year? Where can we get to next? And continue to think really critically about that and break it down quarter by quarter, month by month, right? As a startup, you have to move from funding round to funding round. So you're going to go from your seed to your A to your B, et cetera. And you need to hit milestones between those, otherwise you won't make it. So for us, it was about being really deliberate in terms of how we're going to get to our goals each round, and then thinking about business model that made sense. And how did you break up these decisions, these tasks, this planning with your co-founder, Alex? Yeah, so Alex, Alex leads product and engineering and is our president, and so also focuses on a lot of sort of the operational components of the business. So he. Generally speaking, I'm thinking, sort of further out. He's thinking sort of more day to day, and so overall, we'll have a conversation, and I may propose something, and he'll say that's ridiculous. We can't do that in this short period of time, and we'll compromise on something that's achievable from a product perspective, and then work towards getting that to market. And how often do you involve your investors in that conversation as well? So we like I think most companies, we meet quarterly as a board, and. I think early on the investor sort of involvement is very frequent, and over time I think it becomes a little bit more structured as you have more people that you're sort of managing from a stakeholder perspective. But But investor communications, investor relations is really a really important job of a CEO, regardless what stage you're at. And so I think that keeping your board and your investors sort of aligned with your direction and your mission and how maybe that vision may shift over time is incredibly important. So I mean, I write to them every month and try to kind of keep everybody aligned with where we're headed.
Are your investors based in New York? Are they based in Silicon Valley? I mean, because you're a fintech, I'm thinking that most of them are familiar with the finance world here, and they're based here.
Yeah, so a lot of them are based here. I remember when we started Row, I was told to move to Silicon Valley. I was said, like, look, there's no venture capital environment in New York. This was 2018. And
you resisted?
I resisted. We proved them wrong. We were able to find some of the amazing funds that existed here at that time, and since then the ecosystem has blossomed in a way that there is no reason to do that, which is great. I think New York City is the best place in the world to build a tech company. But overall, there a lot of our company, most of our investors are now based here in New York.
How about the ones that are in Silicon Valley? Do they bring over some of their Silicon Valley ways of doing things to you? Do you incorporate any of that?
I mean, we have great investors in Silicon Valley as well, but I think overall, our investors are great because they understand what we're trying to deliver. They definitely bring a perspective, but they're invested in Row and invested in our mission.
Did you ever consider moving to Boston or Miami, the other hotbeds of finance? Come on. No. I know you're a native New Yorker, but these are all areas that were seen as the next Silicon Valley, alley, what have you.
Yeah, I think there was a moment where people were moving to Miami. For us, it was a moment where we could sign a lease on an amazing office at a great price. Because I think New York is the best place in the world, and it's the best place in the world to build a company. I firmly believe that. I believe that during the depths of COVID in August 2020, when the city was empty, and I think that organizations like Tech NYC too do an amazing job of helping sort of make that mission a reality. But no, I think New York City is where we'll always be.
Thank you from the front row. In terms of talent, hiring the people that you need at Row, what have you observed about the talent pool in New York?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what makes New York so special is the talent pool is so diverse and so talented. The city is really unique in so much as everybody here has to be very good at what they do. Like, frankly, it's a very expensive place to live. So you need to be at the top of your game to be here in the long run. And also, but that it's not a single company town, right? San Francisco has amazing companies. It is a great place to build a tech startup, but it is a city full of tech startups. And what that means also is that a lot of those companies end up building products and services designed for other tech companies, which isn't really representative of the broader economy. So I think in terms of talent and in terms of just being integrated with the market, New York is unparalleled. So
the corporate customers that you serve, across every industry. It's not limited to the finance industry, for instance. Right, that's right. Yeah, I think that about 10% of our customers are in tech, and the rest are across the board in terms of other industries. Again, that's really representative of the American economy. So whether it's construction or whether it's manufacturing, professional services, something like recruiting, any of these industries can use our product. And we've thought about those customers when we were building our product and our company from day one. And they're different size. Some of them are family run. Some of them are publicly traded. It runs the gamut. Yeah, that's right. We really thought about how do we build a product that scales up and scales down. We started sort of in the middle market and then have gradually scaled across that product. Sorry. What part of being a founder has caught you most off guard? I mean, I know that you spent a lot of time preparing and thinking about all of this, having spent so much time in macro, but was there something that you just were not prepared for at all? I think that it's been a really interesting journey for me. I didn't really sit there and prepare for it, to be honest. You kind of take it as it comes. I think that overall, the joy of building a company and of building a product, is what excites me and gets me, try to be the first person in the office every single day. Unsuccessfully most of the time. Most of the time there are other folks. What time do you get in? I usually get in around 8, but we have team members that are incredibly dedicated that beat me to it. But overall, I think that the journey is
I wouldn't say it's not surprising just because I didn't really have an expectation. I just I just kind of take it one step at a time. But overall, I think trying to bring something to life is every bit as exciting and rewarding as I thought it would be.
What does the customer want right now at the end of 2023 when the economy has performed better than a lot of people expected? Yeah. Interest rates have been rising, but for now may no longer rise, but will definitely stay high for a while. Yeah. And people are saying there could be a slowdown in the economy, maybe even a recession come early next year.
I think what our customers want, and I think what our customers sort of always want, is to operate more efficiently. So I think that when you're in 2021, you're in hypergrowth, right? Every company, even if you're a steel mill, you're in hypergrowth mode. Mm-hmm. They want to be able to spend faster to invest in growth. Where you are today, I think every company, the cost of money is higher. Every company is trying to think about, how do I maintain control so that if we're going into this really, questionable economic period, I'm able to make it through that. And so I think that ultimately, that's really what every company wants is really how do we maintain control? How do we maintain profitable growth and get closer to profitability? And that's what we try to help them do at Row.
Do you think that there's actually more demand for your products and services when the economy slows down and companies really need to tighten their belt?
I think so, yeah. We're one of the few SaaS type products where there isn't a sticker price. So because we make money the way that banks do, so we make money on interchange, on net interest margin. That means that we're able to be super aligned with our customers. And when they grow, we grow. And ultimately, yes, I think that there is more demand for our product as the economy slows down, as companies and CFOs want more control over their spend and as boards sort of mandate that.
Those interchange fees, how much pricing power do you have there? Or are those preset and can only be reviewed every so often?
So they're preset, but ultimately it's just a reflection of the value that we're creating for our customer. So it's really just a way of us earning their business through ultimately delivering software that helps them run their business better.
Okay, with every founder, there's always discussion of luck, and I'm curious when it comes to the luck that you've encountered. What would you say is the luckiest thing that's happened to you when it comes to your career and building out Row?
I think, luck plays an important part in life in every way, shape, or form. I think, the luckiest thing that I had was meeting my co-founder and probably meeting my wife. I have an amazing wife who, has allowed me to, an amazing daughter who have allowed me to, build a company, which is, a 24/7 job. And so I'm super grateful for that. And a co-founder who complemented sort of my skills and where I kind of think about the market, he thinks about building in a way that, I couldn't personally. So I think luck is about, who you're able to surround yourself with.
Is the goal to go public? Is the goal to sell to a bigger company?
I think, our goal is to build an amazing product and a really meaningful company that touches, thousands, hundreds of thousands of companies. And so I think that, we'll obviously think about the market as it evolves, but right now it's just to be heads down and build something amazing.
Okay, I want to open the floor up to questions for Everett. We have a microphone, I believe. Yes, we have 2 microphones. So if anyone here has any questions, right here in the front, please.
Marcos from A Better Mousetrap newsletter. Can you talk a little bit more about what you mean by this metaphor of an operating system? What tech stack, what set of features or services does that encompass?
Absolutely, thanks. So what Row delivers to our customers is we have a business banking product, we have a corporate card product, which is coupled with our expense management product. We have an accounts payable product, we have a budgeting product, but ultimately those work together in a single system designed to help companies become more profitable. And over time, we'll continue to kind of evolve into sort of an operating system for companies that helps them ultimately manage their spend across the board. So companies from 2 employees to 2,000 employees are using Row to basically take control of their spend and ultimately drive efficiencies across their finance stack.
The gentleman right over here.
Sure, Jeffrey Bowman from Reframe. The question I have, as you guys were evolving your product features relative to your messaging so that customers, investors got what you did, can you talk about the journey in terms of really simplifying that value prop so people got what you actually did?
Yeah. I think that's a great question, and it's always a tricky part of this space because the product spectrum is so wide. The outcome is companies are ultimately able to be more efficient, but you also want to bring it back to basics. Like companies aren't necessarily in the market looking for financial operating system. They're looking for a better bank account, a better credit card, a better way to manage employee spend, a better way to stop chasing employees for receipts and ultimately closing their books faster. And so for us, I think it's it's about walking that line between delivering a really tangible value and a tangible sort of deliverable for the company, but then helping them understand that there's much more than that thing that they probably came in the door for. There is ultimately a higher sort of goal. So that's what we've tried to do. It continues to evolve as our product evolves.
This gentleman over here in the front, can we get him a microphone?
Well, thank you very much for sharing. I'm actually a student at Cornell Tech. And my question to you is that I've heard a lot of stories about working at a big company. You get very comfortable with what you do and everything, and sort of the entrepreneurial aspiration dies down. So what was your motivation, going from a big corp and wanting to start your business? What was your nudge that made you do what you did, basically?
Thank you. That's a great question. So I started at a big company, and then I worked at smaller funds for a long time. Hedge funds are very entrepreneurial. They're a little bit like startups in some ways, even if they're managing a lot of assets under management. But for me, it was always that feeling from day one of like knowing what it was like to just build something, even something very small. For me, never left. And so I think that working in a big company can be incredibly rewarding. It can be, monetarily as well as like from a career perspective. But ultimately, at least for me, it was never the same as starting something.
This gentleman over here in the front.
Hey, I'm Matan. I work here at Bloomberg. Actually, two questions. So the first one is that I know that startup company usually start from a problem that relate to you. So I want to know how it's relate to your area of expertise. And then once you figure out the problem and you know that you want to solve it, what was the first step? How did you actually approach it?
Yeah. So we started with a couple of problems that I sort of encountered as an individual and as someone that was looking to start a company. So I left the fund I was at. I said I was going to spend 90 days figuring out what I wanted to do before I built it, and even if I had what I thought was the best idea, on Earth day one, I was going to wait till day 90. I had an idea for building products that impacted me, and that was, and then I met my co-founder, and he also sort of shared in that vision. For us, it was initially, we initially started with this consumer idea, but very quickly pivoted to this business idea. And it was both the feedback of the market as well as like my personal experiences operating business entities, where the experience of just setting up the basic finance stack was really difficult and painful and expensive. And I remember opening, when I left the fund, I set up a little entity. I was just trying to open a business bank account. It was really simple.
Or it should have been really simple.
Should have been really simple. I was, as I go to chase.com, open a business bank account, walk into your branch. I'm like, okay, this is, 2018. This is crazy. That must just be them. Go to the next, Wells Fargo, walk into your branch. SVB, email us. And I emailed them, but apparently it was not important enough at the time to actually get an email back. And so ended up wasting, a day doing this, and then forgot about it for a little bit. But as I kept hearing that from other people, sort of came back to that initial moment where I really felt that as an individual. And again, that was just sort of the beginning. You kind of start with that pain point. You start pulling that thread, and you're like, what's deeper? What's behind this? You do more audience research, and you really understand. My partner Alex also built a spend management platform at the company that he was at before. So he had a different problem where his employees were spending money on their own corporate cards or their own credit cards. And ultimately, they weren't able to track it very well. It was a huge pain. They were buying ads, across platforms, and there wasn't an efficient way to do that. And he spun up a virtual card issuing platform. They had access to one for a variety of reasons. And and ultimately built a prototype of what Row really is today. So the two of us came together and ultimately merged our ideas based on our own personal experience.
And we have time for 2 more questions. That gentleman back there.
Hi, Lou Carpino, Pom Pom Ferry. I'm just curious what your take on open banking coming to the U.S. looks like for you.
Yeah, I think it's a great initiative. I think it's really important. Europe has had open banking in one way, shape, or form for a really long time.
Wait, let me interrupt. What's open banking?
Great. So open banking is really is a law or an executive order that was passed recently that basically means that individuals have control over their data as it relates to banking.
Okay.
And ultimately, it is makes the banking system, especially on the consumer side, more portable. We think that's great. It'll ultimately drive more competition. Competition ultimately drives better products, and ultimately, we think that the consumers, the businesses win. So yeah.
And in the second row over here.
Thank you. Hey, this is Jose Ordóñez from AirPulse. My question to you is, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys were around before COVID, right?
Yes.
So you got to leave COVID and now this new normal. How are you guys managing your team? Is it still polarized between in-person, working remote, or a mix of both?
Yeah, COVID was a really shaping experience for us as a company. We were fully in person, and then we went fully remote. Now we are hybrid. We have a strong team here in New York. We believe in the importance of in-person collaboration, but also that that talent exists everywhere, and that we want to make sure that we can access it. So ultimately, I think that each company finds their journey differently, but I think for us it's about maintaining sort of both those things by if people are remote, making sure that they're coming in every once in a while, and ultimately maintaining really tight alignment as a team, doing really good documentation, and ultimately trying to make sure that what you're doing in person scales externally.
All right, Everett, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Before I let everyone come up and ask you questions, I do want to ask Burke Ryman, who is president of the Cornell Tech Student Government. He's also a current Cornell Tech MBA student, to close out our event with some remarks.
Hello? Oh,
There we go.
Sorry about that. Yeah, just a quick thank you on behalf of Cornell. My name is Burke. I am an MBA just finishing up over at Cornell Tech. I speak on behalf of the students here, on behalf of the students back at Cornell Tech. I represent not just the MBAs, but also the Masters of Computer Science, Masters of Engineering, the law students, and 8 other phenomenal programs going on at Cornell Tech, all with one common denominator being technology. So back at campus, I actually organize events pretty similar to this. We don't necessarily have all of the lights and the sounds and the stage, which would be nice. But so I understand how complex it is to have these up and running. So big thank you to Bloomberg and Tech New York City for putting this on. Even though it's so complex in the background, I find it actually incredibly simple just for the audience here on the front end. We have the questions, we have the answers, and we have the audience here. And I think for anyone that's a student like me or a young professional or a veteran in their career or retired, it still comes down to the 2 simple accomplishments, which is just learning and inspiring. And I know for the students back at Cornell Tech, that's exactly what we need right now. So thank you, Everett. Thank you, Scarlet. If anyone else wants to come to the Cornell Tech campus and join one of those events, please find me. We've got some of the smartest students in New York City. Thank you.
Everett Cook, thank you so much.
Thank you. That's great.